everybody, and welcome to episode 110 of the TV Knitting Podcast. I hope everybody had a good week. And my name is Sharon, and I'm also known as Stitch Mistress pretty much everywhere on the internet. So, I recorded this show this past Sunday, and I went to edit it, and I had audio, but the audio was not good at all. What had happened was I don't think I plugged my external microphone in all the way. So the audio was terrible, and I didn't want to let the show go out like that, so I'm re-recording, which means that I did have a package to open, and I opened it on the air on Sunday, but you won't be seeing that because the audio is terrible. But I do have something very pretty to show you that was in that package. So let's get started. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to start with introductions. So the first person I want to introduce who joined my group and introduced themselves, and my group, by the way, is TV Knitting Podcast on Ravelry. And the first person I want to introduce is Nurse Sue, Susan from Cleveland, Ohio. Welcome. Thank you for introducing yourself. B. Bocan, Barbara from Southern California is next. Thank you so much, Barbara, for introducing yourself. The next person that I'd like to say hi to is Tanya Marie. Tanya from Virginia. Hi, Tanya. Number 4, St. Kong 7, Stacy from North Carolina. Hi, Stacy. And number 5 is R. Duel, Rona from Pennsylvania. And Rona, I think you live close to me. You said that you lived on the border between Pennsylvania and New York, and that's fairly close to me, about 40 minutes away. So, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for posting in the group. I will respond to each and every one of you very soon. So, next order of business is the giveaway. And Kristen from Wool and Vine Yarns kindly sent this gorgeous skein of her Volca base in the Jilted Rose colorway for me to give away on the show. And I had 55 entries, and I did the random number generator, numbers 2 through 56, because the first post was mine. And the number that came up was number 50, and that is Alibaba Allison from Bristol, UK. Hi, Allison. I remember that you introduced yourself in the group last week, so congratulations, you won this beautiful skein of Wool and Vine yarns. And Allison suggested that we both knit the Raina shawl, and this is a picture of the shawl that she suggested. It's a really beautiful shawl, and it has mesh, which I'm actually kind of obsessed with. So thank you for your suggestion. And I read each and every post and clicked the love button on all of them because you guys had some wonderful suggestions for shawls to knit. So I'm going to be looking through that thread again. I haven't quite decided what to knit with my yarn. So I had asked you all to give me suggestions on what to knit with this gorgeous skein of Wool and Vine yarns in the Stellar Banshee colorway. And again, I got many suggestions, and I will be pulling a suggestion from that group to knit. So I'm pretty excited about that. I don't know yet. I'm still deciding. Okay, so let's get on with what I have been working on. So I'm really focusing heavily on my Peaseblossom Shawl, and this is a lace weight shawl. It is, I'm sorry I'm in the middle of a row, but I really want to show you the edging on this. So this is knit out of Wool and Vine yarns in her lace weight base. And I am using some chartreuse silver lined beads. And I love how this is coming out. And I'm really enjoying knitting the border on this shawl. And the beginning part of the shawl was kind of boring, as I stated before, but I love this edging. So I am 3 rows away from being finished with the edging. So what I'm going to do, no, I'm sorry, I'm 4 rows away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish 2 rows, and then the other 2 rows I am going to finish for Stash Dash. And for those of you who don't know, Stash Dash, sponsored by the Knit Girls, starts at the end of May, I believe sometime after May 27th, and you can count works in progress in your yardage. So you won't be seeing any finished objects aside from the one I'll show you today, because I want to count all the yardage that I've been working on up to now. So that's how that works. So I will finish my 4 rows, and then, no, I'll finish 2 rows, and then I'll leave the other 2 rows to do and the bind off, and that will count, and that will be after May 27th. So, which is coming up very quickly. Today is May 4th. May the 4th be with you. The next project I'm working on is my Outlander shawl. The yarn is Outlander by Wool and Vine Yarns. And I absolutely love this color, and I love this pattern. I think it's a wonderful marriage of pattern and yarn. The pattern is Trillion by Martina Bem, who is one of my most favorite designers. So I love how it's coming out. It has mesh, which I think looks great, and a variegated yarn. So I am thrilled with how this is coming out. So I've been knitting it as I'm watching the show, and I'm also knitting it during Game of Thrones. I'm enjoying Game of Thrones much more than I'm enjoying Outlander, actually. I really liked Outlander much better last season when they were in Scotland. Not really enjoying the French storyline, so... Anyway, a little TV talk for you from the past. I'm loving Game of Thrones, though. That's a really good show. So I pulled a sock out of hibernation. I have 2 socks in hibernation. One is a Gale's Art sock blank, and the other is a Christmas sock that I cast on Christmas Eve by Desert Vista Dye Works. And this is the sock. It's in the O. Clark colorway, and I think it's really pretty. It has these stripes, variegated speckle stripes, and they're all multicolored, supposedly depicting multicolored lights, and it's also sparkly, which I love. So I worked a little bit on these this week. I'm finishing up the Fish Lips Kiss Heel, and I'm probably going to take from the other side of the ball in order not to disturb the striping sequence. So that's kind of what's holding up these socks. So in lieu of knitting socks, I picked up my sock blanket, and I'm getting a little addicted to it. It is very wee, kind of sad. But I put in 3 squares since I showed it to you last. This one is spun right round, and these 2, I have no idea. They were from a swap with Kristen from Wool and Vine Yarns. So what I think I'm going to do is I have a whole bunch of minis from that swap, and I'm just going to knit them until they're gone. They're all going in my blanket. And I'm just loving knitting on this. It's super fun. So I cast on 45 stitches for each square, and I do a center double decrease, so I have this nice stockinette ridge going up and down the squares, and it's really cool. And I measured all the squares. Each square is about 3 inches. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this blanket 16 squares long and 12 squares wide. And that's a pretty doable blanket. It's not going to be huge, and it'll probably block out bigger, but it's going to be almost 5 feet long, which is fine because I'm only 5 feet. I really only want it as a throw, so I think it's going to be fine. It's going to be great. So from now on, I thought I would show you the next thing that I'm working on in a different way, and I thought that I would try it on for you since it's a top-down sweater. And the beauty of a top-down sweater is that you can try it on as you go. And this sweater is turning out really, really lovely. The sweater is Big Old Coat by Joji Locatelli. And I really believe that I nailed the yarn choice on this because it's just got the same drape that I would expect the coat by Joji to have, and it's just knitting up beautifully. The gauge seems to be fine. It fits great. So let me stand up and show you a little bit about what it looks like on. So again, it started with this collar, and you pick up from the collar and do the sides. So the front is in a ribbing. And here are the sides. It's pretty much down past my waist to my hip bone here. It's actually hitting my hip bone. But I need to go down another 9 inches to my mid-thigh in order to make it the size that it was written for. But it's going really, really well. So what my plan is, this is the back. So my plan is when I finish those last 2 rows on this that I'm working on for now, I am going to put this aside until the end of May to finish it. And then I'm really going to focus on getting this finished, or almost finished, so I can finish it for Stash Dash. So that's about it. Hopefully I will get more progress done on it this week. I think it's going to block out even bigger, which is good because it's supposed to be oversized. And right now it's fitting me pretty, not closely. I have ease, but it's supposed to have 10 inches of ease, and I think it will because I really did measure and measured the gauge and everything. And this yarn stretched quite a bit when I blocked it. So you can see the sleeve is very oversized. And I have a sweater on underneath. 2 sweaters, as a matter of fact. Okay, so that's pretty much all I have been working on knitting-wise. You guys want to see a finished object? Here they are. These are my Harry Potter socks for the Inside Number 23 Knit Along hosted by Katie. And they came out awesome. The yarn is Mustache Yarns in the Sorting Hat colorway. And let me explain to you how I knit these socks. I knit them top down. So I did a 20 row 2x2 cuff, continued stockinette for the leg. I did a fish lips kiss heel. I did not break the yarn or separate. I just did it all in one piece. So you'll see the blue and the yellow is missing on the front. The stripes are interrupted, but you don't really notice it, honestly, because there's so many stripes. So I did the fish lips kiss heel, knit the foot, and did a classic toe. So I knit these on a 2.25 millimeter needle, which is a size 1 US, and I did them 2 at a time, which was amazing. I love knitting them 2 at a time. It was fabulous. Yep, these are done. I had my husband try them on, and he absolutely loves them. He's really excited for next winter so he can wear them. So they are beautiful. He's really, really thrilled with them. Okay, so my next segment is kind of a tale of woe. It's a little bit of a sad story. So hold on. I ruined my shawl. Do you remember the Hoofway shawl that I pretty much just finished? Well, I wasn't really happy with the shawl for several reasons that I will get into when I tell this story. But what happened was the white section, the beginning section, was discolored by the blue section, I'm pretty sure. And it was driving me crazy when I wore the shawl. So I decided to soak it in a color remover that's safe for wool that will remove bleed stains. And it got the bleed stains out of the white, no problem. But unfortunately, the tan section became completely washed out. The blue section's completely fine. So that's pretty sad. This is actually the color of the tan in my hand right here that it should be. But all is not lost, actually, and I really think that this is going to be a happy accident, and that this mistake that I made, this big mistake that I made, is going to have a happy ending. So I've decided to frog the shawl. I found my end. I've already started to rip it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to rip it back to the white section. And then I had ordered another skein of a similar color to this. And I think I ordered one that's even a little more contrasty, a little more pinky, which I think I'll like a little better, from Plucky Knitter Yarns. It's not here yet because a lot of her yarn, you have to pre-order it. It takes forever to get here, which is fine because I'm not really ready to work on it again yet. I'm not going to be wearing this till next winter. The other thing that I wasn't happy about was this edging. And the edging is very tight, kind of like the Color Affection edging. And I did do some yarn overs to fix it, but I don't think I did enough. So when I re-knit this, I'm going to really make sure I add a lot of yarn overs to make this a little more stretchy. And also, this thing is ginormous. Way too big for me. And that was disappointing for me because I just had a hard time styling it. So I think I'm going to go down in needle size, and hopefully that will fix the problem. I mean, I've already knit this white section, but it's this bottom section that's so large, and I think it'll all work out when I block it. So hopefully it will not be quite as mammoth, and it will be more wearable. So again, I'm not upset at all, actually, because what was fun about this shawl was the knitting. I loved knitting it. Didn't love wearing it so much. So, yeah, I'm cool. I was upset for like 5 minutes, and then I'm like, I can fix this. It's only knitting. You can fix these things. On to happier things. Spinning. I did some spinning this week, and this lovely bobbin is getting full. I've been spinning this on my Hansen, and I am more than halfway complete with this braid. So I'm very excited to start plying that. Another thing I received in the mail today is a spinning tool, actually a few spinning tools. And these are cardboard bobbins, storage bobbins. Now, for those of you who don't spin, are going to ask me, why would you want this? So, several reasons. First of all, my spinner, my new electric spinner, the Hansen, comes with an attachment called a quill. And you can mount these on the quill and wind singles off of bobbins onto these bobbins electronically. How cool is that? So I do have a bobbin winder that it's not that great. So this is really, really cool. So why would you want to rewind your singles? Several reasons. I have 3 reasons why I'm going to rewind this bobbin. Firstly, these singles are highly energized. I've been putting a lot of twist into these, and you can see they're quite kinky. And that's fine. That's how it's supposed to be. If they weren't this kinky, they would not stay together, because this is merino, and merino has a short staple length, and you need quite a lot of twist in order to spin merino. And the silk also helps it. Silk is slippery, so you need a lot of twist for the silk. So there's a lot of twist in these singles. They're quite compacted because I spun them inchworm, where I pinch them and smooth them back. So rewinding them will take out a little bit of that energy for plying, and hopefully I'll get a nice even ply. So Judith McKenzie actually recommends that you rewind all of your singles just to remove some of that initial energy that you put in when you spin. So that's reason number 1. Reason number 2 is color management. This is the last bobbin I spun of my first braid. And as you can see, it ended with this beautiful yellow. It also started with a yellow. But I had a lot of this gorgeous yellow at the end from how it was dyed. So this bobbin also has a lot of yellow. But the yellow is underneath all of this purple. So if I started plying these together, you'd have yellow to purple to start. And that's not how I want to start the braid. So I want to start the braid with, that's not how I want to start my plying. I want to start my plying yellow, yellow. So the yellow, I have to get to that yellow. So in order to do that, I will rewind these singles onto the storage bobbin, and I will end up with yellow, so I can ply yellow to yellow. I think it'll work great. Another reason why you might need storage bobbins, and I don't really need to worry about this with my shawl, but another reason would be is if you were spinning for a sweater and you spun your singles over months and months, which happens in my case, your spinning is not going to be consistent because maybe sometime in May you had something going on that was very stressful and you were treadling faster and your singles were a different diameter than your singles in June. So by rewinding your singles for a sweater onto storage bobbins, you can mix them up when you ply. So I actually did that with my last sweater because I have a lot of bobbins for my wheels, so I didn't really need these, but I might rewind my singles for my next sweater onto storage bobbins just to, for the other reasons I told you, to relax the twist and in order for me to even out my sweater a little bit. So as long as we're talking about spinning, let me talk about what I am wearing today. And this is my very first wearable, hand-spun, knitted object, finished object. And I knit this 3 years ago, finished it 3 years ago. This was a loop bump by Stephanie Gorn, I believe her name is, of Loop. And I can't say I love this finished object because when I spun the yarn, I didn't know what I was doing, and I actually dubbed it the hot mess. So when you spin a loop bump, very often you do a Navajo ply, or a chain ply, as some people call it, in order to keep the color sequences in order. So this was my very first chain ply, and I didn't do a lot of things I should have done when I chain plied this, or I did things that I shouldn't have done as well. So I overspun the singles. And then when I chain plied, I overspun the chain ply. So this yarn tends to be a bit wiry. It's actually not too bad. It's a little stiff. It wasn't that much fun to knit because of that stiffness, and it's a little dense. But you know what? It's actually not too bad. And I didn't wear it at all this year because it was kind of stuck in my son's closet. And the other day, I was just organizing things, and I pulled it out and said, oh, let me talk about that on my show. So let me take it off. It's called the Peaseblossom Shawl, and I don't know who wrote it. I'll put it in the down bar here. I don't know who wrote the pattern, but I'll put it in. So it's got these cute little fringes at the end. And the loop bump started with this navy, and then it went into this hot pink. And you knit the shawl side to side. When you get to the middle, you start decreasing. You increase, and then you start decreasing in the middle. And it goes on to this green, and then it goes to this pink, which I do not like. This is the other thing I don't like. I don't like this color. It's kind of a fleshy color. I'm not crazy about it. I love peach, but this is kind of a, I don't know. It's not an attractive peach. I'm not going to say it's ugly. Some of you may like it. This is actually a pretty true representation of the color. I don't care for it. So I try and keep it kind of to the back when I wear the shawl. Then it goes back into this teal, dark teal, and then to a light teal at the end. So I would call it a successful project, definitely. And I will wear it. Maybe I'll wear it again next year when the season comes along. It's a little heavy and scratchy for this year. Oh, and by the way, it's a sparkle, which I adore. And I will hold it up I don't know if you're going to be able to see the sparkle, but I'll hold it up to the camera. And you might be able to see some of the sparkle in it. And I do love the bling. I like sparkly yarn. And I loved spinning with the sparkle. So I actually have another loop bump that I spun up. And instead of chain plying the loop bump, I left it as a single. So I spun this loop bump about 1.5 years ago. I'm pretty sure I showed it on my show before, but why not? Some of you haven't seen the older episodes. This one I'm in love with. And it's destined to become, I'm thinking, a Stephen West shawl, dotted rays, I'm thinking. I think it would be beautiful. And I have enough yardage because I left it as a single, which means that I did not ply it in any way. I spun the bump end to end, and then I washed it vigorously, and then what happened was it fulled or felted a bit, so it's kind of sticky, but it's going to be great. So it's gorgeous. My favorite color in this is this olivey green. I love that part. And I'm looking forward to knitting this up. Now that I got it out, I want to cast it on, which happens a lot. So this also has sparkle. And I love it. It's gorgeous. As a matter of fact, the sparkle, she must have dyed it with the sparkle in it because the sparkle matches the color, which is so cool. So the purple has purple sparkle. The green has green sparkle. It's amazing. It's beautiful. I really love it. Now I want to knit with it. I think it would make a great dotted ray shawl. Maybe this summer, because I need to cast on something with hand spun. Although I do have that other thing that you just saw that I'm spinning. As soon as that comes off the plying bobbin, I am going to cast that on. And that is going to be a novum, but this is so pretty. So I don't think I'm going to have any problem with breakage. I mean, I'm tugging on these, and they're really sturdy. I mean, I must say I did a good job with this one. So you learn as you go along. If I ever got another loop bump, I probably will spin it this way and just leave it as a single, because I like knitting with singles, especially shawls. So, yeah. Anyway, that's that for what I'm wearing this week. Okay, so this leads us to Unwrapped. And like I said, when I recorded on Sunday, I unwrapped this skein of yarn, and it's absolutely stunning. I love this skein. This skein is from Knitter's Nightmare, Sadie, and she has a podcast called Yarnivore. And are you ready? Because it's really beautiful. Stephen West would be salivating over this skein. It's just so gorgeous. Look at the speckles. So it's alternating, it's a variegated, it's not a self-striping. It's alternating speckles and this beautiful spring green chartreuse. I love chartreuse. It's one of my favorite colors. Knitter's Nightmare. I met Sadie at SSK 2 years ago, and she's just a lovely lady. And what a beautiful dye job she did on this. The name of the skein is Splatterpunk. Yes, indeed. Splatterpunk. So, I love this. It'll be a shawl, of course. Definitely a great springy shawl. So, excited about this one. Okay, this brings us to the end of my show. If you have any questions, you can put them in the comments section on YouTube. You can also put questions about the show in my Ravelry group. I have a thread in there called Ask the Stitch Mistress. Starting with this episode, I'm also going to post links for things I've talked about in the YouTube description section. So it'll be right there. If you're watching on YouTube, you can just go down anytime and click on links and just go to what I've been talking about. So I think that will make finding things a lot easier. But if you ever have any questions about anything I talked about, please get in contact with me. And if you don't want to contact me in a public forum, you can also email me. I have an email. It is tvknittingpodcast@gmail.com. Okay, so again, this brings us to the end of the show. I hope you guys have a good week. Happy knitting. Cheers.